The alarm cut through the silence of the bridge like a knife. Captain Ben Harris set down his coffee and looked at the screen. A distress signal. Out here. At the edge of known space. That was rare. Jake, what do you have? Ben asked. Jake Turner, the pilot, ran his fingers across the console. His face showed confusion. It is coming from a big ship. Really big. The design does not match anything in our database. Dr. Amy Lawson walked onto the bridge. She had been sleeping, and her hair was messy. What is happening? Distress signal, Ben said. Unknown origin. Amy moved to her station and studied the readings. Her eyes went wide. Ben, this ship. The energy signature matches Valathoni technology. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew about the Valathoni. They were one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves, and they wanted nothing to do with humanity. They thought humans were primitive. Beneath them, what would a Valathoni ship be doing out here? Jake asked. Only one way to find out, Ben said. He made his decision quickly. That was his way. Set a course. We answer distress calls. That is what we do. The human exploration vessel Horizon's Edge changed direction and moved toward the signal. As they got closer, the Valathoni ship came into view on the screen. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The hull was made of something that looked like liquid silver frozen in place. Strange lights moved across its surface, like living things, but something was wrong. The ship was drifting. No engine glow. Several sections showed damage. No response to our hails, Jake reported. Ben stood up. Then, we go over there. Amy, you are with me. Jake, keep the engines hot. If something goes wrong, I want to leave fast. Jake nodded. Be careful, Captain. Ben and Amy took a small shuttle across the gap between the ships. The Valathoni vessel had a docking port that opened automatically when they approached. Someone inside wanted them to enter. The interior of the alien ship was dark. Emergency lights glowed soft purple along the floor. The air was thin and cold. Ben kept his hand near his weapon as they walked. They found the first body around the second corner. A Valathoni, tall and thin, with silver skin and features that looked almost human but not quite. This one had been dead for hours. What happened here? Amy whispered. They moved deeper into the ship. More bodies. Some looked like they had died fighting. Others looked peaceful, like they had simply stopped living. Then they heard voices ahead. Harsh, angry voices speaking a language the translator struggled with. Ben and Amy entered a large chamber. It was some kind of medical bay. In the center was a bed that floated in the air, surrounded by machines that hummed with power. On the bed lay a young Valathoni female. Her silver skin had faded to gray. She was barely breathing. Around her stood 6 Valathoni warriors in black armor. Their weapons pointed at Ben and Amy the moment they entered. Humans, one of them spat. He was larger than the others, with scars on his face and cold eyes. What are you doing on this ship? Ben raised his hand slowly. We received a distress signal. We came to help. We do not need human help, the scarred warrior said. Leave now. High Commander Zorath. A weak voice came from the bed. The young female had opened her eyes. Let them stay. Zorath turned to her. His hard face softened with worry. Princess, you must rest. Save your strength, Princess. Ben understood now. This was not just any Valathoni ship. This was a royal vessel. And the dying girl was their princess. Amy stepped forward slowly, showing her empty hands. I am a doctor. Please, let me look at her. Zorath raised his weapon. Human medicine is primitive. Our healers are the best in the galaxy. And they have failed. What could you possibly do? What? Maybe nothing, Amy admitted. But she is dying. What do you have to lose? The princess spoke again. Her voice was like wind through leaves. Zorath, I am out of time. Let the human try. For a long moment, Zorath did not move. Then he stepped aside. Amy moved to the bed and opened her medical kit. She ran her scanner over the princess. The readings made her frown. She has been poisoned, Amy said. Something is attacking her nervous system. It is breaking down the connections between her brain and her body. We know this, Zorath said bitterly. The poison was designed specifically for royal blood. It targets genetic markers unique to the imperial family. Our antidotes cannot stop it. Ben watched Amy work. He had served with her for 5 years. He knew that look on her face. She was seeing something. This poison, Amy said slowly. The molecular structure. I have seen something like this before. On Earth. Zorath laughed without humor. Impossible. This toxin was created by enemies of our empire thousands of years before your species learned to walk upright. Amy ignored him. She was pulling up files on her tablet, scrolling through data. There is a class of neurotoxins found in certain plants, from the Amazon rainforest. They work in a similar way. My grandmother studied them. She developed a treatment. You want to give our princess medicine made from jungle plants? Zorath's voice was full of disbelief. I want to save her life, Amy said. She looked at Ben. Captain, I need to get back to our ship. I can synthesize a modified version of my grandmother's formula. It might work. Ben looked at the dying princess. She was young. Maybe the equivalent of 20 human years. Her gray skin made her look like a fading photograph. In a few hours, she would be dead. Then he looked at Zorath. The warrior was afraid. Not of the humans. Of losing his princess. How long do we have? Ben asked. 6 hours, Amy said. Maybe less. Ben nodded. Do it. Amy ran for the shuttle. Ben stayed behind, standing in an alien medical base surrounded by warriors who could kill him in seconds. The princess watched him with pale silver eyes. Why? She asked. Why would you help us? We have shown your kind nothing but contempt. 2024, Ben thought about the question. He could give her political reasons, strategic reasons. But he chose the truth. Because you are dying, he said simply. And we can try to help. That is reason enough. The princess smiled weakly. It was the first time Ben had seen a Valathoni smile. You are strange creatures, humans. So we have been told, Ben said. He watched the machines around her bed flash and beep. The numbers kept falling. The princess closed her eyes, fighting to stay alive just a little longer. Everything depended on Amy now. On an old formula from Earth. On simple medicine from a primitive world. Ben had no idea if it would work, but he knew they had to try. That was what humans did. They tried. Amy worked through the night in the small medical bay of the horizon's edge. Her hands moved fast, mixing chemicals and adjusting formulas. The computer showed her grandmother's original research. Old files, decades old, but the science was solid. She had to modify everything for Valathoni biology. Their blood was different. Their nervous system was different. One wrong calculation, and the medicine would kill the princess faster than the poison. Jake brought her coffee. He stood at the door and watched her work. Will it help? He asked. I do not know, Amy admitted. The poison is incredibly complex. Whoever made it was a genius. An evil genius, but still a genius. And your grandmother's formula? Amy held up a small vial. The liquid inside was golden, and it seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. This saved lives on Earth. People who were bitten by snakes. People who ate poisonous plants. It worked by protecting the nervous system while the body fought off the toxin. But will it work on an alien? Amy put the vial in a protective case. We are about to find out. She returned to the Valathoni ship with the medicine. Ben was still there, standing in the same spot. He looked tired but alert. The Valathoni warriors watched him with suspicion, but they had not hurt him. The princess was worse. Her breathing was shallow. The gray color of her skin had spread. The machines around her bed made warning sounds. You came back, Zorath said. He sounded surprised. I said I would, Amy replied. She moved to the bedside and checked her readings again. Her vital signs are failing. We need to act now. Zorath grabbed her arm. His grip was strong enough to bruise. If she dies because of your primitive medicine, I will kill you both. Slowly, Amy met his eyes without fear. If we do nothing, she dies anyway. Let go of my arm. After a long moment, Zorath released her. Ben moved closer to the bed. How do we give it to her? Orally, Amy said. She needs to drink it. The compound must enter her bloodstream through her digestive system. It will spread from there. The princess opened her eyes. They were dull now, barely able to focus. I heard you talking, she said. Her voice was a whisper. I am willing to try. Ben took the vial from Amy. His hands were steady. He had done hard things before, made difficult choices. But this felt different. This could change everything between humans and Valathoni. For better or worse. He moved to the princess and lifted her head gently. Small sips, he said. Take your time. She drank the golden liquid slowly. Each sip seemed to take all her strength. When the vial was empty, Ben lowered her head back to the bed. Everyone waited. 1 minute passed. Then 2. The princess lay still. The machines continued their steady beeping. Nothing changed. Zorath's hand moved toward his weapon. You have killed her. Wait, Amy said. Just wait. 3 minutes. 4. The princess did not move. Her breathing grew even more shallow. Then her body jerked. A violent spasm shook her from head to toe. Her back arched off the bed. Her mouth opened in a silent scream. Zorath drew his weapon and aimed it at Ben's head. What have you done? Ben did not move. He did not take his eyes off the princess. Amy? I do not know, Amy said. Her voice was tight with fear. This was not supposed to happen. Amy said. The princess convulsed again. And again. Her body twisted in ways that looked painful. The machines went crazy with alarms. Then something changed. Her skin began to brighten. The dull gray faded. Silver returned, but brighter than before. Brighter than any Valathoni Ben had seen. She began to glow. Lines of light appeared on her skin. They traced patterns across her body like living circuits. Golden light pulsed through her veins. The air around her became warm. Zorath lowered his weapon. His face showed shock. This cannot be. The princess opened her eyes. They burned with golden fire. Not silver anymore. Gold. Like the medicine that had saved her. She sat up slowly. The machines could not track her anymore. Their readings made no sense. She looked at her hands, watching the light move beneath her skin. I can feel it, she said. Her voice was strong now. It echoed in the chamber. Something inside me. Something old. Something powerful. She stood up from the bed. She should have been weak. She had been dying moments ago. But she moved with grace and strength, as if she had never been sick at all. Zorath fell to his knees. His weapon clattered on the floor. The ancestral flame, he whispered. Princess Kiara, you have awakened the ancestral flame. Kiara looked at him. The legends. The power of the old emperors. I thought it was just a story. It was real, Zorath said. His voice trembled. Real and lost. 10,000 years ago, our royal bloodline carried this gift. They could command energy itself. They could see the truth of all things. But the power faded. Generation by generation, it weakened until it was gone. Kiara raised her hand. Golden light gathered in her palm. She was not trying to do it. It simply happened. As natural as breathing. The human medicine, she said. It did not just cure the poison. It changed something in my blood. It woke up what was sleeping. She turned to look at Ben and Amy. The golden fire in her eyes was beautiful and terrifying. Ben forced himself to stand straight and meet her gaze. "You saved my life," Kiara said. "And you gave me something my people have not seen in 10,000 years. How can I repay this debt?" Ben spoke carefully. "We did not do this for payment. We did it because it was the right thing to do." Kiara smiled. The expression transformed her face. She was beautiful, Ben realized. Strange and alien, but beautiful. "Humans," she said. "You truly are different from what we believed." She walked toward them. The Valathoni warriors scrambled out of her way. They looked at her with awe and fear. Their princess had become something more than a princess. "I need to contact my father," Kiara said. "The Emperor must know what has happened. The entire empire must know." She paused. "And they must know that it was humans who made it possible." Zorath stood up slowly. He looked at Ben with new eyes. The contempt was gone. Something like respect had taken its place. "Perhaps," Zorath said quietly, "we have been wrong about your kind." Ben nodded. "Perhaps you have." Amy moved to stand beside Ben. She was shaking. The stress of the night was catching up to her. But she was smiling too. "I need to study this," she said. "The ancestral flame. The interaction between my formula and Valathoni genetics. This could change everything we know about xenobiology." Kiara laughed. It was a warm sound, full of life. So different from the dying girl they had found hours ago. "You will have all the time you need, Doctor," she said. "I will make sure of it." The golden light around her pulsed once, then faded. She looked almost normal again, except for her eyes. They still held hints of golden fire. "Come," Kiara said. "We have much to do. And I suspect the galaxy will never be the same after this night." She was right. Ben could feel it in his bones. Something had shifted. Something fundamental. A human medicine from Earth had awakened an ancient power. A dying princess had become something more. And the relationship between humanity and one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy had changed forever. Ben did not know where this path would lead. But he knew there was no turning back. The journey had begun. The throne world of Valathon Prime was unlike anything Ben had ever seen. Crystal towers reached toward a lavender sky. Rivers of liquid light flowed through the city streets. The buildings seemed to grow from the ground rather than being built, organic shapes that defied human engineering. The horizon's edge had been escorted here by a fleet of Valathoni warships. Ben, Amy, and Jake traveled down to the surface as honored guests. At least, that was what they were called. Ben noticed the guards who followed them everywhere. "This place is incredible," Jake said, looking around with wide eyes. "How old did you say their civilization is?" 50,000 years, Amy replied. "Maybe older. They were building cities like this when humans were still hunting with spears." Ben stayed quiet. He was watching the Valathoni people they passed. Some looked at the humans with curiosity. Others with disgust. A few with something like fear. Word of what had happened to Princess Kiara had spread fast. They were taken to the Imperial Palace. It sat at the center of the city, a massive structure that seemed to be made of solidified starlight. Inside, the halls were vast and cold. Beautiful paintings covered the walls, showing Valathoni history going back thousands of years. Ben studied one painting as they walked. It showed ancient Valathoni warriors surrounded by golden flames, fighting enemies that looked like shadows. "The old emperors," a voice said behind him. Kiara had joined them. She wore formal robes now, silver and white, and a thin crown sat on her head. But her eyes still held that golden fire. "When the ancestral flame burned bright in our blood, we were conquerors. We ruled half the galaxy." "What happened?" Ben asked. Kiara's face darkened. "No one knows for certain. The power faded over generations. Some say we grew soft. Others say it was punishment from the gods. The truth has been lost to time." She led them to a smaller chamber where they could talk privately. Zorath stood guard at the door, his eyes constantly moving. watching for threats. I have been studying the historical records, Amy said, once they were seated. Looking for clues about the ancestral flame and why it disappeared. And what have you found? Kiara asked. Amy hesitated. Something disturbing. I do not think the power faded naturally. I think it was taken away. On purpose. The room went silent. Kiara's golden eyes narrowed. Explain, she said. Amy pulled out her tablet and showed them the data. The genetic changes in your royal bloodline are too precise to be natural. Someone modified your ancestors at the molecular level. They built locks into your DNA. Locks designed to keep the ancestral flame dormant. That is impossible, Zorath said from the door. Who would have the power to do such a thing? And why? I do not know who, Amy admitted. But the why seems clear. Someone wanted to make sure the Valathoni royal family could never access this power again. Kiara stood up and walked to a window. Outside, the city sparkled in the fading light. The poison that nearly killed me, she said slowly. It targeted those same genetic markers. It was not designed to kill me quickly. It was designed to destroy the locks. Exactly, Amy said. The attacker wanted to wake up the ancestral flame. But they expected you to die in the process. The awakening was supposed to kill you. What they did not expect was human medicine. My formula protected your nervous system while your body went through the change, Amy continued. Without it, the process would have destroyed you from the inside out. Ben understood now. Someone tried to murder you and unleash a dangerous power at the same time. They wanted chaos. Kiara turned back to face them. But who? And why now, after 10,000 years? Before anyone could answer, the doors burst open. Emperor Thalvorn entered the chamber. He was old. Ancient, really. With silver skin that had faded to white, and eyes that held the weight of centuries. But he moved with purpose, and his presence filled the room. Father, Kiara said, bowing her head. Thalvorn looked at his daughter. His expression was unreadable. Show me. Kiara raised her hand. Golden fire bloomed in her palm, bright and warm. The Emperor watched without moving. So it is true, he said quietly. The ancestral flame burns again. He turned to look at the humans. Ben felt the weight of that gaze. This was a being who had ruled an empire for longer than Earth had had electricity. You are the ones who saved her, Thalvorn said. It was not a question. We did what we could, Ben replied. Anyone would have done the same. No, the Emperor said. They would not. I have lived a very long time, human. I have seen the darkness in the hearts of many species. Few would risk themselves for strangers, fewer still for strangers who had treated them with contempt. He walked closer to Ben. Despite his age, the Emperor was still tall. He looked down at the human captain with ancient eyes. Why? Thalvorn asked. Why did you help? Ben gave the same answer he had given Kiara. Because she was dying. Because we could try. That was reason enough. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Perhaps we have judged your kind too harshly, he said. Perhaps there is more to humanity than we believed. He turned to his daughter. The ancestral flame is a great power, but it is also a great responsibility. You must learn to control it. I know, Father, Kiara said, but there are no teachers. No one alive has ever wielded this power. Thalvorn looked at the humans again. Then perhaps you must find new teachers. Different perspectives. He paused. Sometimes an outsider can see what those inside cannot. Jake spoke up for the first time. I might be able to help with that. Everyone looked at him. He shrugged. I was military before I became a pilot. We had training for extreme stress. Meditation techniques. Focus exercises. They helped me stay calm when everything was going wrong. He looked at Kiara. It is not about alien powers. It is about controlling your mind. And that is something humans have been studying for thousands of years. Kiara considered this. Then she smiled. I would like that. To learn from you. Emperor Thalvorn watched this exchange with interest. Then he spoke again. his voice more serious. "There is another matter we must discuss. The attack on my daughter was not random. Whoever did this has knowledge that should have been lost long ago. They knew about the genetic locks. They knew about the ancestral flame. They are enemies of our empire. And now they are enemies of your people as well." "Why us?" Amy asked. "Because you saved her," the Emperor said simply. "Because you succeeded where they expected failure. They will see humanity as a threat now. Something unpredictable. Something dangerous to their plans." Ben felt cold. "Do you know who they are?" Thalvorn shook his head. "Not yet, but I have my suspicions. There are old powers in this galaxy, older even than the Valathoni. Powers that prefer to stay hidden, powers that have worked for thousands of years to keep certain things buried." He placed a hand on Ben's shoulder. The touch was surprisingly gentle. "I offer you an alliance, Captain Harris, between the Valathoni Empire and Earth. We face a common enemy now, even if we do not yet know their name." Ben did not hesitate. "I accept." The Emperor nodded. "Then we begin. Together." Outside the window, the stars were coming out. Somewhere among them, enemies were watching, planning, moving against them. But now humanity was not alone. Now they had allies, and they had a princess with fire in her blood. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. The attack came without warning. Jake was walking with Kiara through the palace gardens when the first explosion shook the ground. Fire bloomed against the evening sky. Alarms screamed through the city. "Get down!" Jake shouted, pushing Kiara behind a stone fountain. Figures in dark armor dropped from the sky. They moved fast. Faster than any soldiers Jake had ever seen. Their weapons fired bolts of purple energy that melted stone and metal. Kiara's eyes blazed with golden fire. She raised her hands and light poured from her palms. The first attacker dissolved in her flames. But there were too many. They were everywhere. "We need to move," Jake said. He had his sidearm out, the simple projectile weapon that the Valathoni had mocked as primitive. He fired twice. 2 attackers fell, holes punched clean through their armor. The others hesitated. They had not expected this. Their armor was designed to stop energy weapons, not chunks of metal moving at high speed. Jake grabbed Kiara's arm and ran. Behind them, the garden burned. In the palace, Ben and Amy heard the explosions. Zorath burst through the door, his armor scorched and his face bloody. "The Shadow Conclave," he said. "They have found us." "Who?" Ben demanded. "An ancient enemy. They have existed for longer than recorded history. They control things from the shadows. They keep the galaxy in balance, they say, but their balance means keeping species like yours from ever becoming a threat." More explosions. The walls shook. "They tried to kill Kiara because they feared the ancestral flame," Zorath continued. "Now they are here to finish what they started." Ben checked his weapon. It was fully loaded. Not much against an army of ancient assassins, but it was what he had. "Where is Kiara?" he asked. "The gardens, with your pilot." Ben did not hesitate. "Amy, stay with Zorath. Get to the safe room." He ran for the door. "Ben!" Amy called after him. He did not stop. The palace was chaos. Valathoni guards fought against the attackers. Energy weapons filled the air with light. Bodies lay everywhere. Ben moved through the destruction, following the sounds of fighting. He found Jake and Kiara near the central courtyard. They were pinned down behind a fallen pillar. Jake was shooting carefully, making every bullet count. Kiara was using her fire, but she looked tired. The power was draining her. Ben slid in beside them. "Nice night for a walk in the garden." Jake laughed despite everything. "Captain, glad you could join us." "Who are these people?" Kiara asked. Her voice was strained. "Zorath called them the Shadow Conclave," Ben said. "Apparently, they have been pulling strings in this galaxy for thousands of years." A bolt of purple energy hit the pillar above them. Stone rained down. "We need to get out of here," Jake said. "Kiara is running out of power." "I am fine," Kiara insisted, but her hands were shaking. Ben looked around. The attackers were closing in from 3 sides. There was only one exit, a doorway that led to the old tunnels beneath the palace. But it was 50 meters away, across open ground. "Jake, give me your spare clips," Ben said. "I will draw their fire. You get Kiara to that door." "Ben, that is suicide," Jake said. Maybe not." Ben grinned. It was the grin of a man who had stopped being afraid. "I have done stupid things before. Usually works out." He did not wait for an argument. He rolled out from behind the pillar and started shooting. The attackers turned toward him. Purple bolts filled the air around him. But Ben was moving, running in a zigzag pattern that made him hard to hit. His bullets found targets. 3 attackers fell. 4. Jake lifted Kiara and ran for the door. She wanted to stay, wanted to fight, but she was too weak. She had used too much of her power. Ben kept shooting until his weapon was empty. Then he picked up a fallen Valathoni blade and kept fighting. He was not a great swordsman, but he was determined, and the attackers were not expecting a human to fight this way. One of them got through his guard. A blade sliced across his arm. Pain flared, hot and sharp. But Ben did not stop. He could not stop. Jake and Kiara needed more time. Another attacker fell to his blade, then another, but they were surrounding him now. Too many to fight. Then golden fire filled the courtyard. Kiara stood in the doorway. Her eyes blazed brighter than ever before. She raised both hands and screamed with rage. The fire that poured from her was not controlled. It was wild, furious, devastating. It washed over the attackers like a wave. They did not even have time to scream. When the fire faded, the courtyard was empty except for ash. Kiara collapsed. Jake caught her before she hit the ground. Ben walked over, holding his wounded arm. "I thought she was out of power." "Apparently she found more," Jake said. His face was pale. He was looking at the destruction around them. Nothing remained of the attackers. Nothing at all. "We need to get to Amy," Ben said. "And then we need to figure out what the hell is going on." They moved through the damaged palace. Fires burned everywhere. Valathoni soldiers were fighting the last of the attackers. The battle was turning, but the cost was high. They found Amy and Zorath in the safe room. Amy had been treating wounded Valathoni, using her human medical knowledge to save alien lives. When she saw Ben's wound, she immediately started cleaning it. "The attack came from hidden bases throughout the sector," Zorath reported. "Ships appeared from nowhere. We did not know they were there." "How is that possible?" Jake asked. "The Valathoni have the most advanced sensors in the galaxy." Zorath's face was grim. "Because they have been hiding for thousands of years. They know our technology better than we do." Kiara was awake again, sitting against the wall. She looked exhausted but determined. "We captured one of them," she said. "Before I lost control. I tracked him through the residue. His weapons left. He is in the detention block." Ben nodded. "Then let us talk to him." The captured attacker was ancient, not old like the Emperor, but something else. Something that did not seem entirely alive. His skin was gray, his eyes were black, and he did not seem to feel pain. He looked at the humans and smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "So these are the creatures who ruined everything," he said. "Small, weak, young, and yet here you are." "Who are you?" Ben demanded. "We are the Shadow Conclave. We have guided this galaxy since before your son was born. We maintain balance. We prevent chaos. By killing princesses?" Kiara stepped forward, golden fire in her eyes. "By suppressing entire civilizations? By keeping dangerous powers in check," the creature said. "The ancestral flame was locked away for good reason. It nearly destroyed the galaxy once. We could not allow it to burn again." "And humanity?" Amy asked. "What were you planning for us?" The creature laughed. It was a horrible sound. "You were scheduled for intervention. Your species grows too fast, changes too quickly. You do not follow the patterns we have established. In another century, we would have slowed your expansion. guided you toward a more manageable path. Manageable for who? Jake growled. For the galaxy, the creature said. For stability. For peace. Ben had heard enough. He stepped close to the creature and looked into those black eyes. Here is what is going to happen, he said quietly. You are going to tell us everything. Every base. Every agent. Every plan. And then we are going to burn the Shadow Conclave out of this galaxy like the cancer you are. The creature smiled again. You cannot win. We have existed for millions of years. We have seen species rise and fall like waves on a beach. You are nothing. Maybe, Ben said. But we are unpredictable. You said so yourself. And I think that scares you. Ben, he turned and walked out of the cell. Behind him, Kiara's fire began to glow. It was time for the Conclave to learn what happened when humanity got angry. The Shadow Conclave fleet emerged from hidden bases across the sector. Hundreds of ships, ancient and terrible, moving toward Valathon Prime with one purpose: destruction. Ben stood on the bridge of the Valathoni command ship, watching the enemy fleet approach. Beside him, Emperor Thalvorn gave orders with calm efficiency. Around them, Valathoni officers worked frantically to coordinate the defense. They outnumber us 3-1, Zoreth reported. Our fleet cannot hold them. Then we do not fight alone, Ben said. On cue, a new group of ships appeared on the sensors. Human ships. Dozens of them, racing from Earth at maximum speed. They were smaller than the Valathoni vessels, less elegant, more brutal. But they were here. Ben. A voice came through the communication system. Commander Lisa Grant of the human fleet. We got your message. What is the situation? Bad, Ben admitted. But better now that you are here. The two fleets joined together, human and Valathoni fighting side by side for the first time in history. The enemy came at them with weapons that were old when the universe was young. In the medical bay of the command ship, Amy worked with Valathoni engineers. She had an idea. Something crazy. Something that might work. Human technology uses different principles, she explained. Our reactors are less powerful, but more flexible. Our computers are slower, but more adaptable. If we combine our systems with yours, we might create something neither of us could build alone. The Valathoni engineers were skeptical. Human technology was primitive by their standards. But they had seen what human medicine could do. They were willing to try. Hours passed. The battle raged outside. Ships burned. Lives were lost. But Amy kept working. Finally, she was ready. What is it? Ben asked, when she contacted him. A weapon, Amy said. Half human, half Valathoni. It uses their energy output. But our targeting systems. Their power but our precision. Will it work? Amy was quiet for a moment. I honestly do not know. But it is our best chance. Ben looked at the tactical display. The Conclave flagship hung at the center of the enemy fleet. A massive structure that seemed to absorb light itself. If they could take it out, the enemy would lose their command and control. Do it, he said. The weapon fired. It was not a bolt of energy or a missile. It was something new. Something that had never existed before. A beam of light that twisted reality as it passed. It struck the Conclave flagship and kept going, punching through shields that should have been impenetrable. The ancient ship broke apart. Fire blooming from within. The Conclave fleet faltered. For the first time, they seemed uncertain. Now, Ben said. Hit them with everything. The combined fleet pressed forward. Human ships fought beside Valathoni vessels. Different technology, different tactics, but a shared purpose. On another part of the command ship, Jake led a boarding party. His team was a mix of humans and Valathoni, warriors who had learned to trust each other through blood and fire. The enemy flagship, Jake explained, as their shuttle raced through the battle. Even damaged, it has automated defenses. We need to get inside and shut them down manually. Why us? One of the Valathoni soldiers asked. Jake checked his weapon. Because humans are stubborn, and Valathoni are tough. Together, We can get through anything. They hit the dying flagship hard. The corridors were filled with smoke and sparking wires. Ancient machines still functioned, firing at anything that moved. Jake led from the front. He had done this before. In different wars. On different worlds. The setting changed, but the fundamentals stayed the same. Move fast. Stay focused. Protect the people beside you. One by one, his team pushed through the defenses. They took wounds. They kept going. That was what soldiers did. At the heart of the flagship, they found the control center. And there, waiting for them, was the leader of the Shadow Conclave. He was old in ways that went beyond age. His body seemed to flicker, not quite solid, as if he existed in more than one place at once. His eyes held the cold wisdom of millions of years. "You cannot win," he said. "We are eternal. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. You are dust in the wind." Jake raised his weapon. "Maybe. But dust can blind you if there is enough of it." He fired. The ancient being moved fast, dodging the shot. Energy crackled in his hands. He hurled it at Jake. But a Valathoni soldier pushed him aside, taking the hit himself. Before the leader could attack again, golden fire filled the room. Kiara walked through the flames. She was different now. The wild power that had nearly destroyed her was under control. She moved with purpose, with authority, with the weight of 10,000 years of sleeping heritage. "You silenced my bloodline," she said. "You stole our power. You tried to kill me. For the good of the galaxy," the leader said. "The ancestral flame is too dangerous. It must be contained." "No." Kiara raised her hand. The fire around her brightened. "You do not get to decide what is dangerous. You do not get to shape the future anymore. Your time is over." She struck. The battle between them was brief but intense. Ancient power against ancient power. The leader fought with techniques that had been perfected over millions of years. But Kiara had something he did not. She had human stubbornness. She had learned to fight through pain, to push past limits, to never give up. Jake had taught her that. Ben had shown her that. Amy had proven it when she refused to let Kiara die. The ancestral flame burned brighter than it had in 10,000 years. The leader fell. "This changes nothing," he whispered as his form began to fade. "Others will rise. The galaxy will always need guardians." "Then let them try," Kiara said. "We will be ready." The Conclave fleet, leaderless and broken, began to retreat. Some ships fought to the end. Others fled into the darkness between stars. The battle was won. But everyone knew this was only the beginning. In the aftermath, Kiara stood before the gathered leaders of the Valathoni Empire. Beside her stood Ben Harris, representing humanity. Behind them, Jake and Amy waited with Zorath and the other warriors who had fought together. "Today we faced an enemy that has controlled this galaxy for millions of years," Kiara announced. Her voice carried to every corner of the hall, to every ship in orbit, to every world in the Empire. "We faced them, and we won. Not because the Valathoni are strong. Not because humans are brave. But because together, we are something new. Something they did not expect." She turned to Ben. "A human doctor saved my life with medicine made from plants. A human soldier taught me to control my power. A human captain stood beside me when everyone else wanted to run. They asked nothing in return except the chance to help." She faced the crowd again. "For too long, we looked down on humanity as primitive. We were wrong. They are young, yes, but they have something we had forgotten. Hope. Courage. The willingness to try when others say it is impossible." She reached out and took Ben's hand. "Today I announce a formal alliance between the Valathoni Empire and Earth. We will share knowledge. We will share technology. We will face the future together." The hall erupted in sound. Some cheered, some protested. But history had changed, and nothing could undo it. Later, in a quiet room overlooking the city, the small group gathered one last time. Amy was reviewing data on her tablet. "The interaction between my formula and Valathoni genetics. There might be other dormant abilities in other species. Things the Conclave suppressed. We could wake them up. Jake stood by the window with Kiara. They did not need to say much. They had fought together. Bled together. Something had grown between them that words could not describe. I do not know what happens next, Kiara said softly. Neither do I, Jake admitted. But I think that is okay. Ben watched the stars coming out through the crystal ceiling. Somewhere out there, the remnants of the Conclave were hiding. Plotting. Planning their next move. Let them come. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy. They had brought their stubborn courage, their simple medicines, their refusal to accept the impossible. They had made allies. They had made enemies, and they were just getting started. The universe would never be the same. Ben smiled. He would not have it any other way.